Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome to our fifth and final unboxing for my Dungeon Command series. So far we've looked at the Heart of Cormyr, Sting of Lolth, Tyranny of Goblins, and Curse of Undeath. Today we're going to be looking at the fifth and final set to have come out for this game. We're going to be taking a look at the Blood of Gruumsh faction set. And this one here was the last one to come out. It came out in 2013. I want to say the other ones were all still within 2012, but this one here, I just like the artwork on the front because it actually shows more of a horde of orcs than the other ones, which tend to focus on just like three of the things that you can find inside there. So that's pretty, again, fantastic artwork. On the side we have some of the figures that you'll find within, and you just have, again, just have an orc here. I believe that's the Eye of Gruumsh, if I recall. Could be the chieftain, though. And you just have him on the top as well. On the back here, the phrase at the top, it says, "Let the slaughter begin." Sorry, "Let the slaughter begin." And everything else is the exact same. So everything, like all the other blurbs there, including the contents, which just gives you a list of all the creatures that are in there. However, now that we've got that, let's open up the box. Just get into a good position here. I think that'll do it. So we'll open up the box and have a look at what's inside. So here we have our rulebook. So even though this came out nearly a year after the first sets, it is still the exact same rulebook with the exact same creature, like cards and art and everything. There's no updated or expanded information. Unfortunately, which is kind of, again, a bit of a letdown. I would have hoped at this phase in the game that they would have tried to do something a little bit different, but the rulebook is the exact same. So the front cover and the back cover do match, so I guess it was only Tyranny of Goblins that had the two different mismatching tones to it. So we'll just set that up on top of all those. Alright, we'll look at our commander cards here in a moment. Our tiles, so we just got the end tiles here, and as you can see we got some doors and some difficult terrain, and flip over to the wilderness and you've got terrain that blocks line of sight, similar to how doors do. So that's those. And then these tiles, you see just some water there that slows things down, so difficult terrain there. This one's actually probably one of my favorite tiles in the entirety of the game. Just the bearskin rug, the throne there, the braziers. It just looks like a really cool area. And I think I've tried to, if I haven't already, I'd like to use this in the actual role-playing game. And the other side just looks more kind of like a small camp, and like that. So I think I'm going to set this up actually on the dungeon side because I love that. I love that throne with the bearskin rug, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. Alright, let's just have a quick look at our commanders. So the first one here, we got Lokar of the Stone Lands, starting morale of 11, leadership of 9, so that's not a bad leadership. Creature hand of 3, order hand of 3. His special ability is Orc Scout. So when you deploy starting orc creatures, you can deploy one of them in an unoccupied treasure square on the board. So that's just at the very beginning of the game. That's not for deploying normally. But again, it's one way to start you off at treasure, and you can immediately increase your morale because starting at 11 is a little bit low. And his information here is Lokar is unusually charismatic, drawing other orcs to his side with promises of glorious bloodshed. As a veteran of dozens of raids into Cormyr, he has a keen mind for warfare. Countless orcs have challenged Lokar's reign, but none have lived to tell the tale. And his quote is, "We take what we want. If you want to die, stand in our way." And then we've got Drogar, the Eye of Gruumsh. Starting morale is 15, so it's 4 higher than Lokar, and then his leadership is 7, so it's 2 less, but for 4 more morale, which is kind of a major thing. Now we have starting hand, a creature hand of 3, starting order hand of 4, so he also gets an extra order card. His special ability is Gruumsh commands it. Creatures you control ignore difficult terrain, so that means that they don't get slowed down at all, which is pretty good. His little blurb here is Drogar claims to be one of the chosen few who can hear Gruumsh's commands. The deity's words have given the shaman an unquenchable thirst for blood. Drogar promises suffering to those who fail the one-eyed god, driving his hordes forward at the end of a leash, and his quote is just leave nothing alive, burn the camp, and salt the earth beneath it. I think they could have done a better quote, honestly, for him, but that's fine. I mean, those are your commanders. I've always used him whenever I've played the orcs. I've always used Drogar just for the extra morale, because that is a really important thing in these games. Alright, up next, why don't we have a look at some of the miniatures, but before I get to that, I just got the cards here. Now these cards didn't warp as badly. I mean, there's a little bit of a curl to them. Feels like the same card stock, but for whatever reason these ones just didn't get as bad as the others. And these are just the cards for the cooperative D&D board games. This one I think works especially well with Wrath of Ashardalon, which already has a bunch of orcs in it. So that's just those for that game. Alright, and yeah, we'll get to the minis here. Just give me 1 second. Alright, the first one, so we'll show off the ones, like I always try to do, that repeat, so that there's duplicates of. So the first one that I want to show off here, this is the Orc Drudge. So this is just sort of like your typical, throwaway troop. But the paint job actually, again, seems pretty decent on them. And this was the likes of the last set, so I think they definitely made some progress. And these actually look pretty nice. I like them. I like the art. Not the art. I like the paint, sorry. I think they did a decent job, especially considering that this guy is supposed to be, again, just a fodder troop. That's all he does, is kind of exist to get beat up, and yeah, he's only like I think like a level 1 creature, just kind of a weenie guy. But we'll put him in there, and of course, I find these ones are a little tougher to get out of the plastic shell. But there's just the other one. Put him there, and then after that we have, oh, those things really are hard to get out. There we go. We just have the Orc Archers. Again, just simple leather armor, bow. But again, I like the model. I like the sculpt of it. Come on now. Anyway, like I said, I just like the way that these miniatures look. I think they did a really good job with them. Just put those guys there. Up next, we have a look at the boar. So that's just a boar. Nothing fancy about it, but it's got the big nasty tusks. Put him right next to the throne. Speaking of boars, we also have a wereboar. So this is an orc afflicted with lycanthropy, and he is a wereboar. It's pretty cool. Up next, why don't we have a look at the Orc Barbarian. Yeah, mouth open, showing the tusks there. Great axe. Again, not a bad paint job, actually. Not going to set the world on fire or anything, but again, a serviceable paint job, and I find that even the fodder troops in this version look better than like Tyranny of Goblins, for example. The goblins look pretty basic. They weren't terrible, but I think that, you know, like the throwaway troops or sort of like the fodder lower level guys still look really good in this set, and I think that's a pretty good thing. All right, up next we have the Orc Druid with this staff with what looks like a ram skull on it. And a little bit of dry brushing. The paint on the skull, actually, I like the way that turned out. I think it actually looks pretty decent. All right. I like to save the two big guys for last. So here we have. These things are tough to get out. All right, so here we have the Orc Cleric, I believe. Yep, the Orc Cleric of Gruumsh. So he's actually got one of his eyes is covered over. He's got the shield, the spear. Again, just another really nice looking figure. Put him on the other side of the throne. And then we have the last orc in the box is the Orc Chieftain. Just got his sword there. A little bit of detailing on the sword, as you can see. If it'll... There we go. So again, just another nice figure, and I'll put him right on the throne, because that would make sense. Now for the two big ones. I guess I'll show off the one that was shown on like the cover of the box and on the side of the box. So this is the Ogre. And this is just a big beefy guy. Huge creature. I mean, the size of that axe, you know he's probably going to deal a lot of damage, but it's a nice looking figure as well. I actually like it better than some of the previous ogres that they've had. So this again is just a really nice looking figure. And the last one of my all-time personal favorite creatures in all of Dungeons and Dragons, the iconic and legendary Owlbear. See, he's got his beak open there, his claws ready to rend some flesh. It's got the yellow eyes, and again, you know, pretty okay paint job. Again, not the world's greatest, but it looks good. I like it, and you know, I like the pose. I like how angry it looks. It just seems like it's a pretty good fit. All right. So those were the creatures themselves. I'm just going to pan this down here. So let's just have a quick look at the cards. So just give me a moment here. I just want to kind of get these organized a little bit. All right. All right, sorry about that. So here we go. We have the Orc Drudge. So again, these are your typical fodder troops. Level 1, they're humanoid orc, 10 hit points. So not a lot of health. Is there a reason why that won't? There we go. So 10 health, speed of 6, but a melee attack of 20, and it has strength and constitution. So it hits harder than any of the other level 1 creatures. And of course there's 2 of those. Then we've got our Orc Archer. So level 2, dexterity and con, 30 hit points, speed of 6. Ranged attack for 20 damage at 10 squares away, and a melee attack for 10. And of course we have 2 of those. Alright, then we've got the Orc Barbarian. So he is level 3, 60 hit points, strength and constitution, melee attack for 20, speed of 7, and his ability, because he's actually the first one with an ability that I've got here, whenever an adjacent enemy creature is destroyed, untap this creature. So similar to the Bugbear Berserker. If someone dies next to this orc, you can untap them and you can use order cards and it can make him pretty nasty. He can start kind of ripping through things. Then we've got the Wereboar. So that is a beast, humanoid, boar, and orc. He is level 4, yeah. 80 hit points, strength and constitution. He's got a melee attack for 30, speed of 6, and his special ability is Death Strike. So when this creature would be destroyed, it can first make a melee attack that deals his normal melee damage. So even if you kill this guy, if you do it in melee, then somebody's going to get hit for 30 points. And then we got the Boar. This is level 3, he's a beast, he's a boar, he's got 60 hit points, speed of 7, melee attack for 20, constitution for his ability, if I didn't already touch on that, and he also has Death Strike, so he's got the exact same ability as the Wereboar. Then we got our Orc Druid. So he's level 3 with 60 hit points, he's a humanoid orc, constitution, wisdom, speed of 6, melee attack for 20, so nothing does, with the exception of the archers. I don't think anybody does less than 20 points for their melee. But his abilities, when deploying any beast or elemental creature, you can place it in an unoccupied square adjacent to this creature. I don't think I've seen anything that's elemental. Interesting. I'm going to have to keep an eye on the other things that are in here, but maybe for cross-factioning, I guess, because the Earth Guardian that came in Heart of Cormyr is an elemental. That's the only thing I think that is, though. So it's strange that he can do that, but there you go. Or maybe they were planning ahead for something that never happened. Either way, that's his ability, but it works with beasts, so the Wereboar and the Boar can be summoned in an unoccupied adjacent square to this guy, so he can get some people out and get them closer to the action. Our Orc Cleric of Gruumsh is next, so level 5, 120 hit points, constitution, wisdom, speed of 6, melee attack for 30, and his abilities, when you deploy this creature, draw an order card. That's pretty good. Alright, Orc Chieftain is up next, level 5, 90 hit points, strength and constitution, melee attack for 30, speed of 6. Now his ability is when you deploy this creature, you can reveal an Orc creature card of level 3 or lower from your hand. If you do, gain leadership equal to the revealed creature's level and immediately deploy that creature. So this is kind of a big thing. You can do this technically at the very beginning of the game to increase your leadership and be able to get extra stuff out. So if you're starting off and you have the chieftain in your hand and you have another level 3 orc, like let's just say you've got the barbarian or the druid, you can reveal them, increase your leadership, and deploy them in addition to anything else. So it's a pretty decent way, especially if you got the guy, I think, with the 9 leadership. So you can really get that beefed up pretty quickly. Alright, now we've got the ogre. So he is a level 6 humanoid ogre. Again, before the 5th edition had them classified as giants. 100 hit points, speed of 6, melee attack for 50. And his special abilities, when you deploy this creature, you gain 1 morale. So just for getting this guy out, your morale increases. So that's pretty good. And then the last one is the owlbear. So that's just a beast, level 4, 100 hit points, speed of 6, strength and con, and he just has a melee attack for 30. So yeah, no elementals in this faction box. So again, I think it's kind of interesting that the druid has the ability to do something with elementals even though there's no elementals in here. So hey, maybe if they want to go back and do like elemental evil themed dungeon commands, that'd be awesome. I still really want to see Wizards of the Coast bring these things back. Because I think these are awesome. Like, let WizKids do them if that's the case. They've got the miniatures, but just, I mean, get some of this back out because this game is just really great. And then we've got the order cards. So again, I'm only going to focus on a few of these. And if you want to see what they do, I'll try to make sure that they stay on camera well. And you can always just pause and have a look. So the first one we got here is Unexpected Resistance. And actually, I will talk about this one a little bit just because you can use this to reduce somebody's morale as well. So you prevent 10 damage and you choose an adjacent tapped creature. and their controller loses 1 morale. So that's, again, something that can be very painful, just to be able to just kind of chip away at them. Then we got Stomp. Shift 3 squares, deal 30 damage to each enemy creature adjacent to this one. Tactical Block. Defiant Stance. Also lets you gain a morale, so that's good. Savage Demise. So it's an immediate action, so it's something that's done in response. So you probably want to do this basically as you're being attacked by something that's about to die. You can get a hit in for your regular melee. It's level 1, it's con, which I think almost everything in this faction has. Actually, I think everything in this faction has Constitution, so anybody can basically use this. Victorious Surge, deal damage and heal. Scent of Blood, another Savage Demise. Hacking Frenzy, so make a melee attack that deals plus 40. So again, just keep in mind with some of these ones that deal your melee plus, like Victorious Surge and Hacking Frenzy, if you're doing this with the Ogre, you're doing like 70 or 90 damage with an attack. It's pretty insane. Tide of Iron, it's 4th edition ability. Beastmaster, so beast creatures you control deal plus 10 damage, so you basically put this on the Druid. Bone Chilling Rally Cry, lose 1 morale but gain 2 leadership. Come on. There we go. Another Defiant Stance, so you can gain a morale from that. Another Tactical Block, which untaps as well, which is pretty crazy. Change of Plans, draw 2 order cards and then discard a card. Charge. Turn Undead. Slice. Unexpected Resistance. Well, which I think we already looked at. Fury of Gruumsh, which lets you deal extra damage, but you take damage back. 2 of those. Tide of Iron. Again, Furious Bellow, with the quote of Rarg. I guess I never really looked at these. I haven't really noticed. I just kind of noticed now that there's quotes on some of these order cards, and that's, whoops. So I'm kind of curious as to all the other ones that I never really paid attention. I'll have to go back and see what we have for some of these quotes. Like this one here just says, "Smashing my enemies feels so good." Slice, which lets you draw an order card. Cure Serious Wounds. Overseer's Whip. Furious Bellow. Deflect. Second Deflect. A Hacking Frenzy. Another Cure Serious Wounds. There's actually a lot of cures in this one. We got Charge. Hurl Rock. Hurl Rock. And the last one that I want to look at here is the Vorpal Sword. So the Vorpal Sword is level 4, anyone can use it, requires humanoid, and you attach this to their card. So you put it underneath their card, just have the bottom part sticking out. And it says, if the target of this creature's melee attack takes at least 50 damage from that attack, destroy target creature. So automatically, if you put this on the Ogre, you can essentially one-hit kill anything unless the player or your opponent has cards to reduce damage. So this is, again, pretty gross. But this would be a situation where cowering might be the way to go for certain things. Like, for example, if I was to deal 5 damage or 50 damage to, say, the Copper Dragon from Heart of Cormyr, which I think is a level 5 creature, level 5 or 6, you could cower to take none of that damage. You lose 5 morale, but you would still be alive, meaning you could actually attack this thing back. It's risky, but I think this is probably the best case scenario for wanting to use the cower ability on larger creatures. So again, that's pretty crazy what they have there. Now, the one thing about this one, actually, again, I really like this set, and one of the issues that I had with the Tyranny of Goblins was the order cards. Some of them were difficult to use, like the ones that intelligence. Now, there weren't a lot of ones that had intelligence. For example, like there was only, I think, 3 cards in there, but I always found that I had those stuck in my hand, even though I didn't have the one creature that had intelligence for an ability score. Now this one has a ton of wisdom cards. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 wisdom cards, but there are 2 creatures that can actually have wisdom, so it's a lot easier to get these out, and I think all of these are level 3 or less, so any one of the 2 that you have will actually be able to use the wisdom. So I just found that it was always easier to use these cards because it's easier to get one of 2 things out than to get only 1 unit out of an entire stack of miniatures that's like 12 figs. So you have a 1 in 6 chance of being able to get one of these out versus a 1 in 12 chance of trying to get the one thing that used intelligence. So again, that was based mainly off my own experiences, because my own experiences with the Goblins ones was I would always have those intelligence cards stuck in my hand and couldn't do anything with them, because most cases that sorcerer was at the very bottom of my pile. But this one here, there's actually quite a few ways to heal damage, reduce damage. Now there's something like, for example, Turn Undead is going to be useless unless you're going up against Curse of Undeath. Again, you've got the Orc Druid with the ability to summon elementals next to him, but there's no elementals in the game with the exception of the Earth Guardian from Heart of Cormyr. So I think this was the first faction set that was really made with the intention of potentially being able to create your own warbands by piecing things together. So if you decide to put the Earth Guardian in to your faction, then you could summon it next to this guy. And it's also, I think, one of the only ones that really specified or had a card that specifically deals with one faction only, which is the Turn Undead, because no other faction has any undead creatures other than Curse of Undeath. However, if this goes off, it's 20 damage to each undead within 5 squares of whoever uses this. So that can be pretty devastating to that faction. So overall, this is probably my second favorite faction in the game, with my first being the Curse of Undeath. I just love undead in my D&D campaigns. I love undead in this faction, so I just think really cool, but I also really love these guys. This one's a lot of fun to play, especially if you like just getting in there and dealing massive amounts of damage and major hits and stuff like that. And of course, you've got the ogre and an owlbear, so what more do you really need? Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching this series throughout the past week. I hope you really enjoyed it, and again, I would really love to see this game come back. I think that there's a lot of potential for something like this. Wizards of the Coast, they brought out the Elemental Evil cooperative game. They're starting to kind of try to get more board games and stuff out, and with WizKids already putting out a whole bunch of D&D minis, this is a great way to get some more life out of them, basically. And you could make factions based off of earlier sets, so you don't have to keep it with all the current stuff. Like, you wouldn't necessarily need like a Tomb of Annihilation faction at this point in time, but you could go back and have an Elemental Evil one, for example, with some elemental creatures, things along those lines. You could have one based off of the Rise of Tiamat, for example. Maybe it would be interesting to see some other dragons put in there. Like, you even have a dragon faction that has a few different big beefy dragons, maybe have fewer figures, but they hurt more. I don't know, it'd be interesting to see, but again, this was just, in my opinion, this was a really great game, and I found that it was pretty well balanced all throughout. There wasn't a whole ton of power creep. This is probably the first set that really felt more powerful than some of the other ones. just based off of things like having, the ogre deal 50 damage with an attack, putting an item on him that can basically guarantee a one kill. So this one I think was a little bit more powerful than the others, but I haven't found that it's necessarily won more as a result. I've won a few games with it, but I find that, I've also seen people lose playing these as well. So again, it is just a well-balanced and fun game, and it's a shame that it never really got the opportunity that it deserved. It was put out at the wrong time, really. I think that was the major thing. Came out in 2012, which is a point when people were really harsh on Wizards of the Coast. It was during the 4th edition days. It was a miniatures game that didn't use dice, which I think a lot of people were upset by, and to the point where they wouldn't play the game. Like, I've known people who just flat out refused to even touch this, which is a shame because they're missing out on a really fun experience, and it's something that I feel is more strategically engaging than the miniatures game that just relies on, getting a lucky roll on a d20 or some d6 or whatever the dice are that you use in the game. So anyway, again, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this series. I'm still contemplating whether or not I'm going to do a video where I talk about some scenarios that I designed, but I do hope to have the scenarios that I've kind of been thinking of for this game posted on my Facebook page as well as on my Patreon page for anybody who's interested. Anyway, one last time, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.